The war had been brutal. The Vlorans, a once proud and technologically advanced alien species, had been ravaged by an unprovoked invasion from the Zephyrians, an aggressive and merciless race. Their homeworld, Vlora Prime, now lay in ruins, its once bustling cities reduced to rubble, its skies filled with ash. The Vlorans, known for their pacifist nature, had no army, no weapons, and no defenses against the bloodthirsty Zephyrians. Desperate, they reached out to the galactic community for help. But the galactic response was cold. Powerful species like the Andromedans, the Xilians, and the Thargrans, all with vast fleets and advanced technology, simply turned their backs on the Vlorans. Not our problem, they said. Let them handle their own fate. The Vlorans were abandoned to their misery, left to fend for themselves in a galaxy that had no sympathy for weakness. All hope seemed lost for the Vlorans, but then something unexpected happened. A new fleet appeared on the outskirts of Vlora Prime's shattered atmosphere. It wasn't a group of noble peacekeepers or a fleet of superior aliens eager to restore balance. No, it was a ragtag collection of ships, small, unrefined, and seemingly underpowered. The ships bore the unmistakable insignia of humanity. The Vlorans were confused. Humans were known across the galaxy for their violent and carnivorous nature, often seen as primitive and barbaric. How could such a species be interested in helping the Vlorans? It didn't take long for the humans to make their intentions clear. Their leader, a no-nonsense officer named Captain Aiden Carter, sent a broadcast to the Vlorans. "We're here to help," he said, his voice crackling over the transmission. "And let me make one thing clear. We don't do this out of mercy. We do this because we're human, and we know what it's like to fight for survival. You need our help, and we're offering it. But it's not going to be pretty." The Vlorans were hesitant. With no other choice, they accepted the humans' offer. They had nothing to lose. As the humans landed on Vlora Prime, they didn't show any of the compassion the Vlorans expected. Instead, they immediately began fortifying the planet, setting up makeshift military camps and unloading equipment that seemed more suited for warfare than humanitarian aid. "Listen up, Vlorans," Captain Carter announced, addressing the remaining survivors. "We're going to teach you how to fight, and when I say fight, I mean you're going to learn how to survive in the most brutal way possible. You're going to fight like humans, and you're going to like it." At first, the Vlorans resisted. Their culture had always been about peace, about negotiation and diplomacy. They had never known war, never wanted to know war, but the humans were relentless, and their methods were efficient. They trained the Vlorans to use weapons, to fight with raw aggression, to embrace the carnage of battle. It was a harsh awakening. But as time went on, the Vlorans began to change. Under the humans' brutal training, they adapted. They learned how to track enemies, how to use knives, guns, and explosives, and how to fight with an intensity that was foreign to them. The humans taught them that survival wasn't about being peaceful. It was about being strong, ruthless, and unyielding. Captain Carter's methods were unorthodox, but they were effective. He pushed the Vlorans to their limits, forcing them to confront their fears, their weaknesses, and their pacifist instincts. Every day was a battle, but slowly, the Vlorans began to emerge from their shells. "Pain is temporary. Weakness is permanent," Captain Carter would say during training sessions, his voice gruff and commanding. "If you want to survive, you need to embrace the fight, and when the time comes, you take no prisoners." The Zephyrians, unaware of the transformation happening on Vlora Prime, continued their assault, believing the Vlorans would eventually surrender, but they hadn't accounted for the humans' involvement. The Vlorans had been transformed. They fought like beasts, like humans, ferocious and unrelenting. The first major battle between the Zephyrians and the Vlorans was a shock to the invaders. The Vlorans, once helpless and meek, now fought with a savage intensity. They had learned the ways of war, and they were no longer the prey. The battle was brutal. Explosions shook the ground, and gunfire echoed through the ruined cities. The Vlorans, using tactics and strategies learned from the humans, set traps, ambushed the Zephyrians, and fought with a ferocity that surprised even their human mentors. They were no longer defenseless, they were warriors. But it wasn't just the Vlorans' newfound fighting skills that made the difference. The humans, true to their carnivorous nature, had brought their own brand of brutality to the battlefield. They charged into the fray without hesitation, tearing through enemy lines with their bare hands and sharp weapons. Captain Carter himself led the charge, a hulking figure cutting down Zephyrians left and right, his eyes burning with the fire of war. The battle ended with the Zephyrians retreating, humiliated by the unexpected resistance. The Vlorans had won their first victory, and it was all thanks to the humans. In the aftermath of the battle, the Vlorans stood side by side with their human saviors, their eyes filled with a new understanding. They had once believed that peace was the only way, but now they knew that survival required more. It required strength, it required fighting sometimes, it required embracing the brutal nature of war. The humans didn't leave after the victory. Instead, they stayed, training the Vlorans for future battles, helping them rebuild their world. And as the years passed, the once pacifist Vlorans grew into a formidable force, their warriors feared across the galaxy. The galactic community watched in shock as the Vlorans, now armed with the strength and skills of humans, began to reclaim their place in the universe. And they knew, deep down, that the Vlorans owed it all to the carnivorous, bloodthirsty humans who had dared to help them when no one else would. The Vlorans would never forget their saviors. The humans had not only given them the tools to survive, they had given them the will to fight.